Issue 100. It turns out that Eggman's experiment using overlanders as guinea pigs was to give him the extremely overpowered, albeit menacing, ability to roboticize someone just by touching them. If I were Snively, I'd be terrified. I mean, he's around him all the time. What if you accidentally bump into him? Meanwhile, Kodos knocks Tails out with his hand, making his flying around to scout out the perimeter completely useless, as he didn't even get the chance to see Kodos and warn Sally. Sally jumps up into a tree briefly before running away, thinking that Arachnus had told her where she had hidden the Sword of Acorns. Why didn't she tell Sonic where she hid it? She saved Sonic but still wanted to keep the sword for herself? I guess the heel-face turn was a gradual process. Either that or she was planning on defending herself from Kodos with the sword. Nate decides to warn the Overlanders of Robotropolis about the deadly toxins they're being exposed to. That's a pretty risky move. Does he have a death wish? Although he is a human, so maybe the Overlanders would be more willing to listen to him. Sonic and Bunny catch up to the rest of their friends, find out that Arachnus is dead before she could help the heroes anymore, which is a shame, and Sally wonders what she's supposed to do once she gets to the sword's hiding place, because Kodos will catch up with her once she stops. She then falls before Sonic would be able to save her, which seems really stupid since Sonic should have been fast enough to save her. This is a guy who ran around an entire planet multiple times without taking forever, just to have a little race. So this seems forced. Bunny attacks Kodos before he'd be capable of hitting Sonic while he's distracted, and after Kodos gets defeated by Bunny, which is good, they hear a crashing sound. Nate gets approached by robots, and a message from Eggman calls Sonic a hipster for some weird reason, which made me giggle a little, but in retrospect that is pretty bad. And Nate is told that he's only going to serve as bait for Sonic, as Eggman plans to activate an energy dome trapping Sonic in the city. It turns out that Sally survived because she was actually holding the Sword of Acorns when she fell, apparently. And she says to Sonic, appearing as a sort of magical spirit for some reason, that the sword's vessel is unbreakable, whatever that means. What's the point of the sword making her look like that and having a different colored text box for her? Oh, Sally is the one who defeats Kodos. I figured Bunny wouldn't be allowed to do it. It's nice for her to be allowed to do something useful for once, because she barely gets anything recently. She defeats him with a Sword of Acorns, seeming to disintegrate him. If she has no moral qualms about doing that, then why the hell hasn't she killed Eggman? She had a grenade pointed at him at one point. Or maybe that was just the Sword of Acorns taking control of her? Sonic lampshades how long it's been since he's seen Sally, having his hand on her back. I was expecting when I got to this point in the comic, since it's issue 100 and something really important has to happen here, I was expecting that Sally would break up with Sonic in this issue. I mean, it certainly seems to have a lot of build-up to it, but it turns out that's not going to happen for a little while longer. I mean, it does make sense. Sally is the one who, just when you think she's about to snap, she keeps on bottling it up some more. I'm expected to believe that Sally was just too lazy to call him for several days in a row, starting with when Elliot was saved. Don't tell me she was busy. It doesn't take much effort to walk over to a phone and call a person. It'd be 2 seconds. She can do it when she goes to bed if she has to. But instead, she was too shy, I guess, thinking that it had to be Sonic coming to her, not taking into account that Jeffrey would refuse to let him go see her. Sonic admits that he was scared that Kodos had killed Sally, and Sally, looking creepily emotionless, says depressed that Arachnus' death was actually because of her exposure to toxins in Robotropolis, since she hadn't gotten medical treatment. Unfortunately, Mina runs up to them at a pretty bad moment, and Sally looks ever so slightly resentful. Her dulled emotions are pretty unsettling considering what I know is going to be coming up a lot later. She's probably trying to bottle up her emotions like usual as much as she can and going to overdrive, which it makes sense that this would start in this issue since she just witnessed 2 deaths, Kodos and Arachnus who had turned good by this point. Mina fortunately has a good reason to show up, as she right away tells them what happened to Nate instead of coming here just to happily visit Sonic and get him in trouble. Eggman asks Nate why roboticized overlanders are statue-like, while Robians, who we call subservient, retain their mobility. Is he implying that he thinks Robians magically are able to keep moving this way because it's natural then to be slaves to humans? Yeesh. Surprisingly, Uncle Chuck chooses this moment to blow his cover for good, yelling that Robians don't choose to give up before saving Nate. So much for another spy network, and so much for an actual explanation of why Overlanders become this way. Meanwhile, Sally makes a plan, still with that vacant look in her eyes, that they split up into teams, telling Rotor, Bunny, and Antoine to come with her, which leaves Sonic, Tails, and Mina to locate Nate. Gee, I wonder if there's a reason she made Sonic not be on her team. Aside from the obvious fact that Mina, Sonic, and Tails are the ones with the special abilities, so they can all be competent together. Sonic destroys some Shadow Swap bots, saving Nate, and then runs up to hug Uncle Chuck all heartwarmingly. And Sally uses a Sword of Acorns to restore free will to the Robians, who for some reason were just standing still like statues all in one room, instead of attacking them all in a dark room. Well, I can understand why Eggman would put them all here, since he's trying to hide them all from the Overlanders, and therefore not letting them actually be productive, which kind of destroys the point of having them around in the city. I don't know why he didn't just tell them that the Robians were just robots he built, and not have to hide them at all. Then Sonic compliments Sally on them scrambling Eggman's plan, and Sally, still having no discernible emotion in her expression, tells him not to get too overconfident because they still have to get out of here with the Robians. So did they free all the Robians that were on Eggman's satellite? Millions of them? How is Knothole gonna hold that many people? Even if they don't need to eat or drink or, they still won't have enough room, unless I'm vastly underestimating the size of Knothole, but the bigger it is, the more implausible is it that Eggman hasn't found it yet. Surprisingly, the energy dome disappears, and I have to giggle at seeing someone snark at Eggman's comical surprise. Get a life! Eggman complains that Snodley was supposed to be manning the dome's power generator. Why would he help the heroes like that? Turns out it isn't him. Unfortunately, Nate somehow isn't with them anymore. Instead, he knocked out Snidely, which I guess was foreshadowed by him thinking to himself that the heroes will never escape the city with the energy dome. So now he's going to do something drastic about it, even if it means basically sacrificing his life in the process. Yeah, life. Because I'm just gonna say it right away so you won't hold out false hopes and be way too disappointed. He dies to the robot. He pretty much gets killed off here. Well, he had a good run. He was very useful. He basically served as a replacement for Rotor while Rotor was hanging out with his family. I'd say that was good enough for him. But it really is a shame this turns out like this for him. Then we suddenly cut straight to the second story, which surprised me since I thought something pretty big was going to happen in the main story of this issue. But I guess the Robians being freed and Kodos being killed and Arachnus, obviously pretty big things have happened in the previous story without Sally breaking up with Sonic. Leanda says that Julie Sue and her family would have been treated much worse in their holding place if it were up to her, so I have to wonder why she is so much more sadistic and the other Dark Legionnaires are going easy on them all. Then it's revealed to me that Commissar actually is the code name of Leanda, which makes a lot of sense since what kind of a name was that? It's obvious that it wasn't her actual birth name. So I'm just gonna call her Leanda from now on. That sounds way better. Commissar sounds like the name of one of those green alien squid guys from The Simpsons. After she tells Julie Sue to come with her to the bridge of the ship and not try any funny business, Julie Sue hugs Knuckles after looking shocked at his new appearance, saying heartwarmingly, "Whatever the problem is, I want to help. I'm just so happy to see you." And I giggled a little at Landa saying sarcastically, "Oh, gag me." Knuckles is told that they'll return all of the people of Echidnapolis back to where they belong in exchange for Knuckles becoming one of the Dark Legion. Julie Sue, who's already been there and escaped, doesn't point out that the Dark Legion should logically be suspicious of Knuckles leaving the Dark Legion the minute he gets what he wants, and instead begs him not to do it. I'm not sure which would be better. Dimitri tells Julie that she of all people should know the Dark Legion have never been the villains the Guardians have taken them for, snarking, "It's not like I'm asking him to sell his soul." Again, I'd be fully supportive of these guys overturning the stupid technology ban if they just left it at that, but instead they want to take over the rest of the world too. Knuckles, caring more about all of the people in Echidnapolis than himself, agrees to do it. Facing the risk that his ridiculous amount of power will be used by the Dark Legion. And I have to wonder if the Dark Legion will immediately re-banish everyone as soon as they get Knuckles firmly brainwashed or whatever. Why wouldn't they? Tobor actually comes back, with green instead of yellow eyes for some reason, and is seen flying above the Dark Legion airship and planning on turning the tables on it. Let's hope so. Sadly, Kragok shows up attacking him, so I guess we really didn't see him again in the airship. And Tober says that if he has to die to spite the Dark Legion, so be it. With Kragok screaming at the idea, an explosion happens, making Dimitri think they could be under attack, but somehow Knuckles knows that there's nothing to worry about now. And after Tober heartwarmingly reunites with his father after so long, and seems to be free of the cyborg guys that he hated so much because he gets to look however he wants now, a Dark Legion goon says that the quantum cannon with only one N has been zeroed out. That sucks. Tober wasn't very helpful at all then. Knuckles asks if there's anything he can do to save his family and friends, and agrees to do whatever Dimitri wants to achieve it. This makes perfect sense of him, and since he's never really been a full hero anyways. His heroism only being because he was born to a guardian family, and he hasn't always been nice as son. So long as his evil twin being a pacifist, it's pretty obvious from all that he's meant to be more of a neutral figure. So yeah, this is pretty exciting. Fucking terrible line with him saying welcome to the dark side though. You're not supposed to have a villain know he's evil, especially when he's going to be portrayed as actually realistic instead of knowing he's evil. The first story was written by Carl Bollers, and rather than what I was expecting happening, instead, it gets postponed as the real plot is about Kodos being defeated by Bunny and Sally, Sally taking advantage of the Sword of Acorns to save herself from another fall, and then freeing all the Robians out just standing there in a dark room not doing anything bad or good for some reason, and Nate sacrificing himself so that everyone could escape without an energy dome to worry about. I really wish Sally could always have the Sword of Acorns with her, because maybe then she'd actually have some special powers to justify her coming along in adventures with Sonic and being useful, even if it's not her powers but the swords. But no, instead it has to only belong to the king, even though he never does anything with it anyways. Sally's back in action, forcibly returning herself to making the plans and going on missions. Although I noticed that, as of this issue, she always looks so creepily emotionless here, when you'd expect her to show some emotion. Not emotionless as in serious, and she doesn't look angry at all, just emotionless. Like she's bottling up everything she can. Though not to the point of tranquil fury either. She's like a zombie. I'd like to just point that out, since it seems like perfect foreshadowing to what's gonna come dozens of issues later. Also, this isn't a critique of the artwork. I'm certain this is intentional. The second story was by Ken Penders, and despite the quantum cannon not working to restore people to King Nepalus because Tober ruined everything, Knuckles still agrees to join the Dark Legion purely out of desperation to get his friends and family back. I fully understand this, and I'm really interested in seeing how this will turn out. It's just a shame that they insist on portraying the Dark Legion as usually being almost completely as the pure evil side of things, because that's boring, it doesn't flesh them out well at all. I'm guessing they're not going to use Knuckles for good though.